This podcast is sponsored by Saltworks Security. For almost 10 years, Saltworks has delivered world-class application security services and products designed to help enterprises secure their applications from policy to production in an ever-changing security landscape. They're the makers of SaltMiner, an application security management platform designed by security professionals for security professionals. SaltMiner aggregates and normalizes the issues found by many different solutions and enriches that data with business context. SaltMiner gives team members from the C-suite, security, and development teams the ability to manage their application security program through customizable views. The Saltworks SaltMiner Community Edition is a free penetration testing management and delivery application. It provides teams with custom reporting for potentially thousands of end users, red team support, and the ability to manage new and retesting of engagements. SaltMiner Community Edition also allows teams to enforce both testing methodologies and custom vulnerability databases for consistency in engagement delivery. Check them out today at saltworks.io. Hello once again, everybody. It is time for the SMC Journal podcast, the show that is all about software engineering in today's modern IT world. We talk a lot about testing, tuning, monitoring, observability, AI ops, and security on this show. I'm Scott Moore, your host. Thank you for being with me. On the topic of security, you probably have noticed that I have branched out beyond just the realm of performance and observability into all of DevOps and DevSecOps. We now have a sponsor, which you've already seen. Saltworks Security is sponsoring this episode. Thank you very much. And so because of that, we have a new audience out there. And a few weeks ago on social media, you probably saw that I was out at the DEFCON and Blackhat 2023 conferences that were held in August 2023. That was actually a much bigger trip and more to the story than I can actually share on this podcast today. Needless to say, there were several interviews, lots of video was captured, and some of that I'm going to share with you on today's show. So we're branching out into security. There's a lot of parallels between performance testing and security testing, penetration testing, and some of the same technologies that are involved, but using them for different purposes. So I'm familiar enough with it, but I did notice this is a really big audience that I'm now becoming attuned to. I guess this audience is now learning about me as well. And these conferences, over 25,000 people, I think, at each individual conference, both Black Hat and DEF CON. So this definitely is a big room to be in. I saw a lot of the main players and vendors, and I met some really cool people, got some new friends just by being at these conferences. So on today's show, I want to share with you a couple of interviews that I did that were sort of man-on-the-street interviews where I was at Black Hat, and you can see from the footage that you're watching right now, some of the B-roll there, that we were walking around, we were seeing all the people, all the vendors, and just taking a lot of pictures and meeting folks. And I met some people online, and I said, hey, let's meet up here at Black Hat. We met right there in the front lobby. I said, hey, let's do an interview right here. So with my mobile camera rig, I was able to pull them to the side, and I want to share those interviews with you today as part of our Black Hat 2023 coverage. Alex Waintraub, why don't you introduce yourself to our audience and tell us what you're here for?
Sure, thank you so much for having me today. Hi, my name is Alex Waintraub. I am the DFIR expert evangelist over at Cygnus. My background is primarily incident response and security operations, and I've been doing it for about 12 years. And now I've come over to the software side, the SaaS side, to build a secure, guided crisis response platform for companies to start planning, preparing, and then ultimately responding for the cyber crisis.
Awesome. So I've heard you speak before. I've listened to some of the things on YouTube that I've heard. I know you talk a lot about ransomware, and that's something we've been talking about on the show quite a bit because it seems like it's on the increase, it's on the rise, and I'm wondering, is that because there are just more people doing it and getting away with it? Things are just not as secure as we thought, or is there an impact of AI where you can actually now build ransomware with AI?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question, and we're seeing, yes, that uptick in ransomware cases. I think it's still that unawareness that you can get hit once and then you can get hit twice. Well, we do see an uptick in that secondary attack a few months, 6 months, 9 months after that first attack. Ransomware is there, and we need to start learning how to prepare for it. and plan for that cyber crisis. Is your company ready for it? Probably not. That's what we're seeing, and so there's that level of understanding that it could happen. It's not if anymore, it's when. I hear that a lot at Black Hat. We've been hearing that over the last few years where no one's safe anymore. So ransomware is something that we need to start defending against, but also preparing on how we're going to respond to the cyber crisis. Where's our response plan? Are we able to execute that plan? And are we able to recover from the crisis without having to either negotiate with the threat actor or communicate with our insurance or reach out to our IR retainer? Like, how are we able to plan for this crisis in a way that makes us more secure, and then also in a place where we feel comfortable within our environment, so we don't have to ruin our reputation, because that's the last thing we want to do as a company.
Let's give you two scenarios. One, a company watching this who's right in the middle of the firefight, they're now discovering they're in the middle of it. Or second, a company who is trying to get ahead of this thing. They want to get proactive about it. What's your biggest piece of advice to either one of those?
Oh, that's a great question. So what I would say is call Cygnus.
Okay.
Good yeah.
One.
So that's the way to do it. You got to start planning for the cyber attack. If you're going through one right now, you have to have the right team in place. You have to know who to communicate with. Do you have a legal team? You should probably be calling them in that time of crisis. And if you don't have a legal team, then be aware there might be notification obligations there. And then from a response efforts, you should know who to contact right away. If you're going through the crisis now, there are companies out there that are, primarily working on this. Cyber insurance is out there helping out a lot, and I do recommend going over to the cyber insurance, because they will guide you through the process from beginning to end, and ultimately help you to get that end recovery that makes you feel more comfortable and know you're more secure in then.
Great answer. So here's a question about security testing in general. Security is not a nice to have, it is a must have, okay? There are companies now who are trying to scale their security teams right now. I know that's something you have experience with. So what would be something that you could give advice to these companies that say, if you're wanting to scale and you want to scale fast, here's some things you should keep in mind, and if there are any specific skill sets they should be looking for when they're bringing people on that team?
I'm looking at the managed services now. I think the managed service is the way to go. If you want to scale a team hard, you want to scale a team fast, instead of hiring a team of 50 and then not really needing a team of 50, you can go to those managed services out there that have that team already there, that have refined the process, who have built out their service, and then they just bring it in, and it's almost like a plug and play. Instead of going over and hiring a team that might be good, might not be good, there's so much risk there. And when you want to scale internally, what you can do is hire a specific team internally that's working with your managed service that can then provide that service in a refined way to the customer, to you. I look at, there are so many over here. There are XDR solutions that we as Cygnus are partnering with other customers are partnering with, that are allowing you to see your full network scope, see your full environment, and understand the risks, and then start helping you mitigate those risks. It's not, hey, I need to build a team internally. It's, who do I need to partner with? That all-in-one solution that can provide me the risk matrix all the way down to preventative care and response, all in one solution. And that's what I'm really excited to see this year.
Great. Well, that's some great feedback. Thanks for being part of our Black Hat coverage here this year, 2023 in Vegas. Thanks, Alex.
Sure. Hi, my name is Thomas Blank. I'm CEO and co-founder of Tributech. We're an Austrian tech company, and we offer a technology for data notarization. So it enables a company to monitor if the data integrity is intact across the whole life cycle of the data itself. So no matter how many system layers the data passes through, how many times it gets decrypted, used by application, encrypted again, we can always go back and ensure and test if the data has been tampered with.
Okay, so you're reporting this into a SIEM, right?
For example, yeah, we can then just trigger via APIs then an alert to the solution of the customer's choice, for example to a SIEM. A rule gets triggered, SOC analyst then can further investigate, he gets the timestamp, the data that has bin tampered, the origin, and some further more metadata, and then he can just like further investigate.
All right, so give me a scenario, give me the workflow of what would happen. Let's say you've detected this, it's triggered a set of rules, people have been notified. What happens after that, and how long does it typically take to remediate the issue?
Yeah, so let's do a basic IoT scenario. Our agent is integrated into an IoT gateway, collecting all the data, sending it to the backend, for example, to Microsoft Azure of the customer. He collects the data from a charger, for example. If on the way to the backend the data gets tampered, at arrival it's checked and it can immediately detect has something changed. For example, fake data was added or some data values have been manipulated. We can immediately detect that and then trigger actions like what the customer prefers, like send an alert to the OT security engineer who can then further investigate. Just like log into our platform, check which data has been tampered, and then just, for example, look at the device, check the configurations, and they can,
So they can act on this in minutes or hours, maximum, versus finding out about it too late and being reactive about it.
Yeah, it's almost real time is the detection of the tampering, and then how long it takes then for him to take action. Like in minutes he can already sit on the case and further investigate.
So as you're doing this, how much more activity today do you see of this kind of thing versus say 3 years ago or 5 years ago? How fast is this problem growing?
It's getting more and more in a negative way popular, especially now with the uprising investments in AI, where data poisoning is a huge issue. If you tamper, for example, the training data, input data, or the output data, you can just screw up the whole model. So it's getting more and more popular, especially attacks on critical infrastructure, where you want to mess up with the OT environment of an electrical grid operator, for example. So with the changing geopolitical situation we have right now, these attacks on critical infrastructure are increasing, Also healthcare is kind of...
I was going to ask you, what are the industries or verticals that are most prone to these kind of attacks?
In my opinion, critical infrastructure, so electrical grid operators, energy companies, oil and gas companies, and healthcare. Because messing up with patient data can have a huge impact on society.
What about governments?
Governments is also very interesting. If you look, for example, on data from the people itself, like social security numbers, or when you, for example, have a DNA test of a company, how can you ensure that the chain of custody, the digital chain of custody, is still intact? So it would be possible to tamper it and, for example, lead to wrong results.
Wow. Can you give us any kind of a success story that you've had recently where you've caught this in time and it's saved the customer a bunch of money? I mean, you don't have to mention names of customers or anything, but give me sort of a win that you've had with this.
Yeah, sure. It was an IoT setup with chargers where we could immediately detect tampering, and then basically, which resulted in the customer he was triggering payments based on the data, so he could then immediately stop the processes and then avoid payments screwing up.
Sounds like something we want to be interested in. If somebody wants to find out more, where can they go to find out?
Either on LinkedIn, just look up for Tributech, or on our website, tributech.io.
Thanks so much for being on the show today. Appreciate it.
Pleasure.
Yep.
So we've got more video footage from those conferences, and we interviewed several thought leaders in the areas, CEOs and others that are part of the whole AppSec domain, and we hope to be sharing that with you very soon. And we have some bigger plans for expanding into security as well. You'll be hearing more about that from me in the near future as well, and into 2024. In the meantime, what do you think about this show? It'd be great to hear your feedback. You can reach me very easily on most social media platforms. LinkedIn is primarily the one that I use, but if you scan that QR code, it'll take you to the bio page that will allow you to connect to me in several different ways, or wherever I'm at online. You can always email me as well at heyscott@smcjournal.com. I would love to hear your feedback, and I would also love to have you subscribe to the YouTube channel and like this video. There's a QR code for that, and a URL will take you right to my channel. I'm easy to find on YouTube as well, but it would be great to have some new subscribers and get your comments on the shows, and that helps me understand what you're looking for in a show, and that would be great. So until the next time, and we will have more Blackhat and Defcon coverage coming up, but until then, this is Scott Moore thanking you for watching today's show, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.